Ashley. Here we are. Okay, I'm just gonna run to the bathroom and then come back and we can start talking.
That's my storm cellar there. So I come out the back door. I mean, it's lightning, the wind's blowing, stuff's flying around. So I run over here. That's my storm cellar there. So I come out the back door. I mean, it's light.
This one's a little long, so we'll give another minute or so. So does anyone want to start with some initial thoughts? You can keep looking as we're talking.
I think it's a good combination of so many different mediums. I'll say the photos really stood out for me, actually. I know the drone photography is, just kind of mind blowing, but the photos really kind of stayed with me the most, actually.
I also thought the photos were incredibly strong, and using video in a couple different ways was interesting. You know, it's sometimes used in the background as a visual element, and other times there's like a short documentary spurt where you learn someone in particular's story. I thought that was effective. I will say at the top, I thought the map probably needed a bit more explanation, or maybe some interactivity to it, to understand what the purple lines mean, how they moved, or maybe it could help set the help me understand the setting a little bit more, as well as potentially a video topper. Really strong work overall, though.
Yeah, I think it's very, very strong overall. I love all the different elements. I think a nice detail is that the thumbnail for the videos is, like a 3-second GIF, basically, that's looping.
I agree. That draws you in, makes you remember to click it.
Mm-hmm. And the writing is beautiful. I also appreciate, I think tornadoes are a little undercovered in the extreme weather sphere. So it's nice to see this coverage.
Okay, great. Are we okay moving to the next one?
Yep. Which one are we doing next? Before the final frame?
I sent the link for this one directly in the Slack, but I can send it in the Zoom chat as well if that helps you guys. I'm not sure which is easier.
Slack's good.
This great.
This grainy CCTV footage from a
Oops,
nearby
sorry.
bar.
Does somebody want to start?
I thought this was excellent. I especially love how when they do the before the final frame videos, they have the steps both in the scrub bar and written out as steps, so that you can really follow along, pause, and understand, what led up to these final frame moments. With the topper, I wish they had maybe used like the officer jeopardy language earlier on, like maybe even in those first 5 text boxes, just to draw people in, to introduce that element to what they were investigating. But I think this is incredibly strong overall.
Yeah, I would agree. I was like sucked in immediately. And I agree. I like the fact that they, as you're going through, you can also see the text of the VO, which is really helpful. And I didn't get to read everything, but within it, just it's all the text and just complemented it and helped kind of contextualizing these videos really well.
Courtney, did you have any thoughts?
I agree with all of this. I think it's incredibly well presented and incredibly engaging. I'm not sure if we're sort of grading on this, but the research is also phenomenal.
I don't know if everyone got to the bottom, but there is a short paragraph on the bottom about how they did the research.
I didn't get to watch the last 2 videos, but just to clear, there's no original video in this one, correct?
Probably the drone footage at the top is.
Yeah.
But right, yeah, there's not. That's true. This isn't. This is using found videos to tell a story.
Are we ready to go on to the next one?
I am.
Does anyone want to start talking about this one?
I thought the access on this is obviously amazing, really impressive. And I liked in particular, the quotes they chose were really strong for when you got to those points. Part of me did kind of almost want it to be almost traditional video and just to be in that facility, but I understand why they did it like this, just because of the complexity of the information.
I agree. I think that again, the access is incredible on this, and it's just so cool to see inside the facility and see everybody working. I will say though that I'm questioning whether this is the right format for this footage for two reasons. One, I'm missing audio and hearing what this place sounds like, and sort of explaining what each of these videos is. I also think that the illustrations, in order for them to be effective, should have been closer in proximity to one another to see some sort of like stages or advancement. For me, it was, going between the videos without sound and the illustrations and the text was just a little too much information to understand in this scrolly sense. It's laid out beautifully though. The design is really clean. I'm just wondering if maybe this was two different articles.
Courtney, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I'm putting together
Okay, I saw your thing light up, but then didn't hear anything. So
I think I was just like,
take your time. Okay.
I think it's really good. I think perhaps my favorite thing about this piece is that it's such a public service to break it down like this. And the access is incredible and the design is really clean. I agree with Jenna on the illustrations that they would be more sort of maybe like digestible or meaningful if they were like in a place together, so you didn't have to sort of like try to track them individually as you're going through. And I think sort of in line with that, if I had one critique, it would be that at some points it feels a little bit busy to me, and I think sort of the illustration is part of that, but there's just a lot of different elements in the same place that it's a lot to track as you're obviously also absorbing this really complicated scientific process. But overall, I think it's great.
Okay, great. We'll move on to the next one then. So the next one is in Slack. It's I Lost My by the New York Times. This is a long one as well. Are we ready to start talking about it?
I am, because I think we're going to run out of time if we don't. Should I go ahead, Kavitha and Courtney? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm still scrolling through, but I'm ready.
Okay. I also thought this one was an exceptional and innovative presentation. This doesn't have article text, which is, I think we all know, incredibly challenging to tell a story, a scrolly story with not a lot of text. And I just thought the presentation, when you're scrolling, it's like they're throwing photographs down on a table and has this very natural progression punctuated by these just really intimate portraits of people telling their stories and seeing footage of that person. Just another great example of putting human stories to the numbers, to the COVID numbers.
I agree. I feel like this was kind of perfectly presented, honestly. Just because as you go, there's that moment when that, as you said, the photo after photo kind of just right before you. And I also appreciated that. I don't know if it was one cinematographer the entire time, but there was a uniformity within the interviews in terms of the framing that I think kind of helped, connect them, right? And it was beautifully done.
I agree with all of that. The videos are just like perfectly produced. They feel so personal. It really feels like you're there. A detail that I like is that the photos all feel so different. Like the photos that they got from the families are from different places, have different moods, like different backgrounds, different sort of like color schemes. And that just makes the entire presentation feel very dynamic to me. I think it's a very, very devastating, very effective piece.
Okay. We'll move on to the next one. We're probably going to go cut into our lunch break, but we'll still give you some time. Just keep in mind this first section of news and issue, video and presentation are the biggest categories. So it'll get quicker after this. So this next one is how the Champlain Towers fell and what it reveals about possible causes by the Washington Post. Who wants to start with this one? Courtney, do you want to start?
Sure. I really like this one. I love the use of the graphics over the photos. In particular, when the graphics over, I'm looking at one of the pictures lower down, where it's dynamic. I just think it's a great presentation for a layperson to building construction, which probably most of the audience is. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's obviously very, very complicated. But in particular, I like that the way they kind of dissected throughout the video, that I think a lot of us had seen of the tower coming down and kind of what each moment meant.
I'm struck by, the turnaround of this was 5 days after it fell, and the amount of reporting that went into making that interactive graphic section, especially, outlining how the building was built. I'm very impressed with how quickly they could turn that around and make something that's presented in a very simple way, but got to a lot of the questions people were having in these days after this tragedy. Was, how did this happen? Is this going to happen to my building? Let me understand a little more deeply what happened here and why.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is how Myanmar's military terrorized its people with weapons of war, by the Washington Post. Okay. Does someone want to start?
I'll start. This is a heavy piece. I felt like the elements intertwined really well together. I haven't made it through the whole thing. It's incredibly dense. But a couple interesting choices here are giving me a little bit of pause. For instance, some of the videos, don't have any UI, and so and graphic elements are being displayed on the video, but the reason for the graphic elements are embedded in the article text, which I think is, it makes sense in a linear way. I just think we probably all know at this point the way readers interact with these is not necessarily to read every word and connect it with every visual that's adjacent to it. So maybe some, adding the story into these videos more would have been a good choice. That's my first thought. What do you all think?
I agree with that. I think you might be talking about the TikTok videos where they're like highlighting the civilians using arms. Yeah, I had the same thing. So I was like, what's happening here? What I really liked, I thought was impressive, was towards the middle of the piece where they're showing you kind of the videos that are playing on the left and the kind of where they're taking place chronologically. I thought was really well done. It's also really impressive. I think they said that they analyzed 15,000 videos and images. This is, yeah, it's very impressive.
I also really like that, connecting the video on the ground with the map to give you like spatial awareness of where they were in relation to one another. I think that's.
I had basically the same thoughts. I loved that that part of it where you're scrolling through the video clips with the map, and the sort of like TikTok compilation up top, like the first time you're introduced to the TikTok videos, but they're static. I also was like a little confused at that point. But overall, it's very, very, very impressive. Like, as I'm sure everyone in this room knows, Myanmar is one of the hardest places to do this kind of work on.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Same thing with the TikTok stills. And then I thought maybe that was the more ethical choice than to, like continue showing what may be considered propaganda or insensitive. I wondered if that was the reason behind that. What do you all think?
That is a good question. I guess my thought, it was mostly just, I was impressed that they were able to find all these TikTok videos. And it was just like an amazing source to go to.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to like read that because the feature explains the videos a bit, and it is propaganda. I don't know. I guess my view is like, as long as it's in its proper context in the video, like as long as it's given, like the propaganda video has a proper treatment of explaining what it is, that it's valuable. But I'm not sure if that's the reason that they went with the photos.
Yeah, I guess we don't know.
Any other thoughts before we move on? We have 2 more to go.
Ready to go?
So the next one is A Year of Pandemic by the Seattle Times. This one has several videos that would take a long time to watch them all, but I do hope that you got to watch some of them. Kavita, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Yeah, actually, speaking of the videos, I thought the videos in particular were really well done. They're just like the production quality and everything. It's just really obviously very well done. I kind of wished actually that in terms of like a scrolling, that the videos had actually started playing, doing almost like an autoplay as I was scrolling. But I can understand why they wanted to give people a choice to click or not. But yeah, and I also really like that within each chapter, I like the images slash videos slash gifs that they chose for each chapter heading.
I haven't had a chance to watch all the videos yet, which I do want to do. What I did watch, I thought was extremely well produced. And I agree. I like design wise, I liked in particular the chapters, the 3 slates of gifts I thought was really effective. And like just sort of like the very magazine-y layout.
I agree. This one was dense. Wow, what an incredible amount of reporting and work from so many different types of journalists here. I saw our another favorite. We saw the parent video in here, so that makes me think this maybe was a culmination of a year of work reporting and making it work all together as one piece. I really especially liked the graphic that sort of interspersed at each chapter that showed where we were in the timeline and what that and reminded you what the numbers were like at that time. I think any reader would have a relating experience to like, oh yeah, at that time maybe we thought things were going to be okay, so I was starting to see family and then numbers got big again. So re-walking you through those timelines I think was good. I do think it's sometimes a lot to ask of a reader in such a dense piece with so much text, so many photos, to then stop and watch a 4-minute video. Maybe wanted it a little more intertwined, a little more atmospheric to the piece, as opposed to stop here and watch a short doc. But if somebody has the time and wants to, feel a lot and see a lot of very personal stories, this is definitely a good piece.
Okay, we have one more in this category.
I'm getting a head start on lunch, sorry.
Go for it. This one is Going to Bed Hungry. For these families, every meal is now a struggle, by the Washington Post. Are we ready to start talking about this one, or do you need a few more minutes?
I could use like 1 minute more.
Most days I'll get up and I'll
Okay, let's go ahead and start talking about this last one.
I like when you call on someone, Marcel. So I feel like
Okay,
I'm
well, in that case, you look ready.
sure. This one, I really like this presentation. It does, the video portraits or the vignettes did feel really integrated into the story flow. I especially liked introducing the first video when you scroll and it's like, this is so-and-so. And explains a little bit about her story, and then you watch the video. I kind of like that. I've been working in immersive experiences for long enough now that I really like that direct language sometimes, like this is so-and-so, and here's what you're going to learn about her, so that you can, I don't know, it takes a little more pressure off the reader to stay very focused and lets them instead let the visuals wash over them and sort of take the story in a little more naturally. But I like the minimalist design of this one and how easily it flows attached to the scroll.
I agree with that, especially just because the topic is so important and also very undercovered. I feel that the way it's laid out, just it gets to the point, but also gives you a snapshot into each person's story really well.
Definitely agree with all that. I love the autoplay on the videos, agree on the integration and that it's full screen. It's excellent. These graphics are really unique to me, at least, like the sort of like grid of 3 that are switching out and looping. I think they're great and like something I haven't really seen before in quite that way. And I appreciate that they found people with quite different stories in their reporting. So the whole thing is very good.
Okay, so now's the hard part. We can write down in Slack your first, second, third, and fourth, maybe.
Oof, this is a tough one.
Oh, it's going to be really hard.
Okay. I could spend hours thinking about this, honestly. Oh, Courtney. Final frame is way up there on strongest reporting and visuals, but the actual layout is incredibly unique. Okay. All right, let's go.
So it looks like I lost my going to bed hungry and the Champlain Towers are in everyone's top 4. Does someone want to take a stab at ordering those?
I would put I lost my at number 1.
I would too. Because this is a presentation category, and the presentation of it was so unique. There's so many different ways to tell this incredibly important story, but they chose a way that felt very personal.
Courtney, yours don't have an order, but is I lost mine near the top for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
Okay, we got one. Who wants to make-
It looks like we all chose Champlain Towers as well. I think one of the things I would maybe argue for as number 2 is just I thought that they laid out a very complex story very clearly and used the visuals as you went down in a very like effective and layered way and did it very quickly.
Yeah, I didn't realize the turnaround until Jenna flagged it. That is almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
So would you all put that one ahead of going to bed hungry?
I think I would put going to bed hungry first because of the videos that it has. Maybe edges it out for me a tiny bit.
Yeah, they're so different. One uses video as its primary component to tell the story, and another uses graphics. Maybe going back to the description of this category will help. Visual stories that feature multiple elements, judged on the whole experience, including the journalism, storytelling, design, interactivity, and engagement. In that regard, I think the design and interactivity and engagement of Going to Bed Hungry was a bit stronger. It's also the subject matter. I mean, all the subject matter has been so incredibly newsworthy, and but yeah, I feel comfortable with Going to Bed Hungry as number 2. Do you? You both?
I think that
Okay.
that makes sense.
So we have Going to Bed Hungry, number 2.
Before we pick number 3, I just wanted to ask you both. I was that before the final frame wasn't in either of your top. I thought that one was like in order to expose such an important loophole, right, in the court systems, as well as give visual evidence of it, to like really let readers decide for themselves if they were given all the information, would they think differently about a situation like this. I thought it was pretty effective at using visuals and design and interactivity to do that. Just wanted to make a case for that one.
I actually want to pull it up again.
Okay.
I thought it was phenomenal. But I was sort of focused on it, like in comparing it to these other pieces. I
Mhm.
felt like the effectiveness of the presentation, while excellent, felt more similar to like a lot of visual investigations, if that makes sense. Like the other presentations felt more sort of unique and innovative to me, although obviously the Times has been out front in innovation on visual investigations from the beginning. But they stood out to me more in their uniqueness. This stands out in excellence, but like in thinking about this category, that was kind of what I was weighing.
I can see that. Yeah. It still very much has a lot of elements of a print article, with the interactive elements mixed in, kind of. But, while some of the other entrants in this category were fully interactive for that space, for the online presentation space. Okay.
Can I ask Kavita, what do you think about Final Frame? Like in this particular category?
I think I had the same reaction to it. Is I think just I was kind of weighing it against the other entrants, and in terms of presentation, I did feel like it was. I think the others maybe went a little bit further. Like for me, one of the reasons that the Myanmar piece was really kind of I was floored by that, because I do think that they just the amount of videos and images they went through, the way that they lined up videos with the graphics, I thought was really well done. So kind of in that sense, I was just trying to think about, yeah, the innovation of presentation, and I think some of the others were. It was just a comparative thing.
You're right. The Myanmar one is incredible. To have so many elements interspersed throughout the report, throughout the text and the reporting is quite a feat, as we all know. And I
It's
do
hard.
like that mapping to on the ground video element. Okay. What do we do for number 3?
So it sounds like it's a choice between the Champlain Towers and Myanmar.
I think between the two of those, I felt like Myanmar, the presentation was a bit clearer than Champlain Towers, if I had to compare them to. But Champlain Towers is also very, very good. Oh, I don't know. Ignore me. Yeah.
It's so hard.
I ignore you.
It was really hard.
It's virtually impossible. I will say Myanmar is also, it's hard to compare because the turnaround on Champlain Towers was like 5 days, but Myanmar is a months long investigation of thousands and thousands of videos. And like one of the places it's hardest in the world to actually go through video like that.
Yeah.
So I think I would like sort of at face value, again, it's hard to compare with the turnaround, but like in terms of general excellence, I'd probably say Myanmar edges it out a bit.
I agree. It didn't initially put it up there, but now that I've heard you both speak about it, I'm thinking twice. So I think Myanmar number 3 and Champlain Towers honorable mention.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
But caveat, those are all incredible.
Yeah. All really.
So we'll just add plus all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations, you guys. You got